What we're going to do is we're going to solve multi-step equations. We've already solved one-step and two-step equations with the summer packet. What we're going to do with multi-step equations is we're going to simplify and then we're going to solve it. So with simplifying, there's a couple different ways that we're going to do this. In this first case, we have parentheses. So we're going to distribute the 4 to each of the terms. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 6 is 24. Then what we're going to do is we're going to cancel the 24 because we want to isolate the variable. It's just a fancy way of saying get the x by itself. So we subtract the 24. 24's cancel. They become 0 because of 0 property. 8 minus 24 is negative 16. Because there's multiplying happening here, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we divide each side by 4, and that gives us our final answer of negative 4. The other way we're going to simplify is adding the like terms. When we add the like terms, we're going to add the x's, or I should say combine the x's. In this case, we're subtracting them to get 3x, and then we take the 5 and the negative 8, or minus 8, and that gives us negative 3, or minus 3. We're going to add the opposite, so the opposite of subtracting 3 is adding 3. These become 0, so we isolate the variable. 9 plus 3 is 12, and then because there's multiplication happening here, the opposite of multiplying is dividing, so we divide by 3 and we get our answer of 4. So for this first one, we're going to distribute the 3. That gives us 3x minus 21 equals 9. We want to isolate the variable, so I'm subtracting 21. That means I'm going to add 21. And when I add 21, that becomes 3x. This is 0, and I get 30. I divide by 3, and then that gives me x is equal to 10. For the next one, I'm going to distribute the negative 2 to each of the terms. That's negative 2x plus 16 equals 10. What I want to do is isolate the variable. Once again, fancy way of saying getting the x by itself. So in order to get the x by itself, I'm going to subtract the 16. Once again, I want to add the opposite, so that way it becomes 0. And I have negative 2x equals negative 6. So I divide by negative 2, once again, to isolate the variable. So I have the x by itself. Negative negative is a positive, so that would be a positive 3. Now, letter C, notice that we don't have parentheses. We're going to be adding the like terms or combining the like terms. We could think of this as negative 5x, positive 2x. That would be negative 3x. We have the 9, which is a positive. We have the 2, which is a positive, so we get a positive 11. The 11 is positive, so I'm going to subtract it or add a negative. So that way it cancels, and I'm slowly getting the x by itself. And since this is a negative 3, I'm going to divide it by negative 3. That way it cancels, and whatever I do on one side, I do the same thing on the other. So I get a positive 9. Now that's solving. What we're going to do is we're going to look at some words for word problems. We're going to talk about some basic ones. So sum, add, altogether, more than, and we're not talking about the inequality more than, we're just talking about like 6, 5 more than a number. That would be x plus 5. Starting with sometimes has to do with addition. The two main ones are sum and add. Difference, subtract, less than, so a number, and then less than 6. A loss would be a negative. So these are just terms that talk about subtracting. We talked about the terms that add for adding. Product times, those would be examples of multiplying. Quotient, divide. So what we're going to do for example 2 is we're going to write an equation and then we're going to solve it. Sum means that we're adding. What things are we adding? We're adding 8 and a number. We don't know what the number is, so we can use any letter that we want. Usually people use an X. Is always the sign for equals. So is 5. And this is just a basic one-step equation where we subtract the 8 And what we get is x is equal to -3. Once again, we're writing the equation and we're solving the equation. For the next one, it says the quotient of a number. Quotient means divide. The order actually matters. So a number, I'll just use an n in this case, but an x is fine, divided by 2 is, remember, it means equals 5. The opposite of dividing is multiplying. So I multiply each side by 2. The 2's cancel. I isolate my variable, and I get 10. So for letter C, 3 times the difference. This is kind of tricky. This is not saying 3 times we're subtracting. It's we're multiplying the difference. So this has to do with order of operations. We're first subtracting, and then we're multiplying. So we're going to multiply by 3, but we're multiplying the difference. And once again, order matters. A number, I'm going to use the letter X, and 9 is, once again, means equals. So I'm going to distribute the 3 to each of the terms. And then I want to isolate the variable. So I'm going to add the 27. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide it by 3. So when I divide 3 and 72, 3 goes into 7 2 times. With the 2 times 3 is 6. If I subtract 7 and 6, that's 1. 3 goes into 12 4 times. So x is equal to 24.